Match Sim Monday, Tigercast fans. We've shifted from Friday to Monday. Not sure why the shift had happened, but anyway, it's the 10th of Feb and Match Sim took place today. Very, very hard to find information on this, but HKTiger from Punt Road End did drop by and did post a bit of a review of what he saw, so we can't thank him enough for his efforts, and everyone else who went down there. And there's been other bits and pieces on Facebook groups and things like that. So good to try and piece it all together and see what everyone thought of the Match Sim session. Obviously, we've got West Coast coming up next week, so this is kind of the last real hit out the players might have before playing that game. And again, like we said before, I dare say that we're going to go over with a pretty young and inexperienced side, albeit some of the older players will have to go over. You can't just play all kids. You've got to get some runs in the leagues for the older guys too. But from the Match Sim today, of note with the draftees that Sims, Lawler, Alga and Armstrong played in the Match Sim. You would think that Lawler's probably almost a certainty to go and play in this West Coast game, and hopefully maybe he misses the Collingwood game and then plays round one. Don't know, it's going to be interesting to see how they manage his workload there, because you don't want to overdo it, I suppose. Armstrong is the other interesting one, because there's going to be, it sounds like we might be trying to play three tall forwards. So do you go, and it's like Lynch would obviously be a lock for one of the main forwards for round one. Bauer, I think, will be another one, but do you go with an Armstrong or do you go force it? Or maybe it's Samson Ryan who's playing down forward while not rucking. So there's a little bit to play out there, but very good to see that Armstrong's getting some good Match Sim time in as well. And my man Alga getting some Match Sim in as well. I think he's going to be over there in Perth, almost certainly. And I can't wait to see what he does against West Coast or Collingwood if he gets that chance as well. In the rehab group, we had Fall, Smiley and Trainer, just in relation to the draftees. Smiley obviously still recovering from the injury he had pre-Christmas. Jonty Fall, as we all know, was coming back from some back issues, so they're no doubt just easing him in as per, I suppose, the mantra of Ben Serple, which has been really, really good. Luke Trainer, I don't think there's been any noted injury of such. I feel like this is just more of a management piece of a younger player. As we all would have heard on the club podcast from Nathan Broad and Serple, that Trainer is like a bull at a gate wanting to do anything and everything, and they're having to hold him back a little bit just while their body adjusts. So I feel like this is just a management thing, but it seems like that the rehab group did do quite a power of work as well. So they weren't just doing some light laps. I think it sounds like they were pushing themselves. So maybe Trainer is still in contention for the West Coast scratch match. It'd be great to see him out there. It doesn't seem like he's put a foot wrong since coming to the club, and I remember all the talk about the concussions and things like that pre-draft. There has been zero sign of that whatsoever. So I'm really excited to see what Luke Trainer brings, because he has got sublime skill. I haven't quite worked out where he might fit into the side, because there's a few players kind of lining up for a similar position to him. So maybe he's got to adjust and play in a different role. I don't know, but yeah, good to hear that he's still ticking along, and I won't be shocked if we see him in this scratch match. HKTiger also noted there was lots of two-way running, good positioning and spacing, and working hard into space, which I think is going to be music to a lot of Richmond supporters' ears, especially the two-way running. It's no secret that last year, that was probably one of the major things we lacked, especially in the midfield area. And I know we lost a lot of games, but I actually think our defence held up quite well throughout the course of the year. But because of the lack of two-way running from our midfielders and half forwards, it was just pure weight of number of football going down to the back half, which is why we conceded as much as we did. So I'm really, really glad to hear that's a big focus. And I think some of this ties into what Ben Serple was saying when he was on the club's show about the running that they're doing at training. So a lot of the running work they're doing is that repeat sprint, getting from contest to contest rather than long distance stuff. So they seem to be training a lot more relevant with the running side of things. And even Nathan Broad mentioned that he's feeling like it's starting to pay off, because he can feel himself being able to get from contest to contest a lot better, which again is something we probably didn't see a lot of in 2024 for a whole range of reasons. There was injuries, there was instability in a lot of parts of the ground, so it didn't help, but good to hear that it's something that's been addressed and that we're hopefully going to see a bit more of in 2025. From a player perspective, HK made special note of Tim Taranto and Hopper, stood out for the black team. Taranto, I won't be shocked if he doesn't go to West Coast to play in that match. So I reckon we might leave him behind potentially. Hopper, I reckon, will go. And as CB said on the live show we just had tonight, that he reckons that if Hopper can play 16 to 20 games, a fit and injury-free Hopper could potentially win our best and fairest. The CB reckons he's our best in and under mid behind Dion Prestia. So I'll be really, really interested to see, if he goes over and the work he does. But from all the training videos and things that we've seen from the club, he's looked very fit, very healthy. And I think, again, from the club podcast, he even said to Ben Serpel that it's the fittest that he's felt for a while too. So hopefully Hopper can have a really good 2025, because I know there's been a lot of conjecture and speculation about, was it worth getting him across? Did we pay too much? But I just think for whatever reasons, we haven't seen the best of Jacob Hopper yet because of injury and circumstance. So hopefully we get those pieces right and he can put together a big season, because he's going to be a very important part of our midfield and the rotation and how it all functions. So good to see him shooting the lights out. And for the yellow team, Jack Ross, again, put in a very good effort. I would be gobsmacked if he's not starting midfield for this West Coast game. This is now, I think, two or three pretty good match sims in a row that Jack Ross has put together. And I feel like he's starting to really kick into gear, kind of where he left off before he got injured in 2024. So good to hear that Jack Ross is doing well. Thompson Dow was another one that HK made note of. Had a pretty good game and lots of really good second efforts. It seemed pretty noticeable in some of the photos from the club recently that Thompson Dow has put on a bit of size, which is good, because that was one of the big knocks, is that because he was so slight and lean that he was getting pushed off contests really easily. And look, I've always been on record as saying that I fully respect what Dow did for us last year, because he was playing a role that he wasn't designed to play, being the number one midfielder due to various reasons. I think he's got a bit to offer. I think it's fair to acknowledge there's a bit more of a pecking order now when it comes to midfield time, and maybe he slid back in that order a little bit, but he's definitely a very good backup player to have, and you know that he can step in and do a role if needed. So good to hear that Dow is doing well. Trezise seemed to be the standout player, though, according to HK, who was playing in Team Black. A lot of good two-way efforts, and again, I would be shocked if he's not on the starting halfback flank role for this game against West Coast. I know we've mentioned Trezise a few times, that he's had not the greatest run with injuries over the last couple of years. So I'm keeping everything crossed that he gets a good, you want to see 15 to 20 games from him and a lot of consistency, a lot of belief. And I think he will fit in quite nicely in the back line. How it fits when everyone's fit and available, I'm not too sure, but I think he will be more than putting his hand up to play. Tom Brand was also impressive. And apparently he got rid of the no contact hat after the first period as well, which is really good. So obviously coming back from shoulder surgery, they were obviously very cautious. He's had the no contact cap on for quite a large chunk of the preseason. But as a side product to that, it sounds like he's been working really, really hard on his running power as well, because a lot of the notes we keep hearing about from training from the weeks gone by is how well he's doing in the repeat sprints, quite often winning in his group. So yeah, very good to see that from Tom Brown. I think he's going to have a big year. I think I still don't know what position he's going to play, because we would love to have him at both ends of the ground, but it sounds like Tom Brown's going to feature pretty heavily in our best 22, which is good. From a forward line perspective, HK mentioned that Fawcett, Sims and Bauer played as forwards. Didn't necessarily hold a whole bunch of marks, but they brought the ball to ground for opportunities, which, if you can't mark the ball, you at least want to bring it to ground to cause a 50-50 contest and give us, half a chance for the small forwards to do their thing. As to who's going to play, I think there's at least one spot up for grabs. Like I said, for round one of the season proper, I reckon Lynch and Bauer are almost certainties to be two of the forwards. If we go for a third forward, I feel like that Fawcett is ahead of Sims. He's had an extra year in the system, and Sims is very raw and still growing, according to some people at the club. Campbell Gray is another one that may feature as well early in the season too. And Harry Armstrong, obviously another contender as well. But I'm probably leaning towards Fawcett a little bit more. He's got that year or two more experience, slightly bigger and battle hardened body. So I'll be really keen to see how he goes on the match simulation against West Coast and Collingwood. I'm just assuming that these guys are going to get some pretty hefty minutes to see what they've got. So fingers crossed that comes to life. And the final note that HK had was that Samson Ryan again went head-to-head with Nank. And he reckons he just shaded him again. So that's 2 or 3 match sims in a row now where it's come back that Samson Ryan has beaten Nankervis on the day. Now, look, you have to acknowledge that number one, it is match sim. It's not full-blown AFL, so granted. And number two, I suppose the other unknown is we don't know what percentage of output is Nank going at. Now, I think it's safe to say that with the type of person and player Nankervis is, he's not letting people win. He's not letting people beat him. He's an ultra competitive animal. There's a big chunk of it that I think that Samson Ryan wins some of these contests in his own merit. And most pleasingly was the fact that he was taking some strong marks around the ground too, according to HKTiger, which I know has been a bit of a sore point for a lot of people when talking about Samson Ryan's game. But again, like my Now Hear Me Out video, I reckon this year could be a breakout year for Samson Ryan. What opportunities he gets, I'm not too sure. I think a lot of it depends on, is Nank captain, how his body holds up, will we be managing him throughout the year? A whole raft of things to play out there. But he's coming into his age, Samson Ryan. I'm getting a little bit more excited as the weeks go on that hopefully he's starting to believe that he belongs at the level. But you know what? People are going to try and knock it and say it's only pre-season, it's only match sim. And it is, but I would still rather see Samson Ryan putting his best foot forward and making positive moves and positive results than not, because then he'd be giving himself no chance. So there you go. That is the match sim report for Monday the 10th of Feb. Again, massive shout out and thank you to HKTiger from Punt Road End, who took the time to put some notes out. And there was a couple of others on Facebook as well. Apologies, I've forgotten the names. But yeah, good to see some people out at Match Sim, and we look forward to the hit out on Monday against the Eagles. I think it's Monday at 12:30 p.m. I reckon it is Melbourne time. I think it's on KO. I'm not sure if it's on Fox Sports either, but yeah, make sure we all watch that. We'll be doing a live show on Monday night at a minimum to talk about the West Coast game, and hopefully we hear lots of good things from that as well. So thanks for watching. If you like the Tiger content, make sure you like and subscribe for more, and I will see you for the next video. Go Tigers!